Why, before any mediation can start, the county is now staring at a cash crunch. And Kakamega governor defends his government's move to set aside 2 grave sites in the county. Wycliffe Oparanya is livid that the matter has been taken out of context. The Council of Governors chairman says the grave sites are not informed by COVID-19, but Kakamega town's readiness for city status.
A very warm welcome. My name is Mombi Chege, sitting in for Abubakar Abdullahi. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Anne Wairimo. On to our top story. Now, the Ministry of Health has come out to refute claims that President Uhuru Kenyatta has barred cabinet secretaries from traversing the country amid a surge in COVID-19 infections. Now, this is even as the number of coronavirus cases in the country rise to 14,805 cases after 637 more people tested positive for the virus.
A controversial circular from the Office of the Head of Public Service went viral after it stated that President Uhuru Kenyatta has barred cabinet secretaries from traversing the country amid a surge in coronavirus cases. However, the Ministry of Health has come out to refute claims that there has been a cabinet lockdown.
There is no such thing as a cabinet lockdown as we have seen in the news.
According to Health CS Dr. Rashid Aman, the circular was released to serve as a reminder to civil servants to follow the COVID-19 rules and guidelines. Aman further stating that government services are essential services and can therefore not be stopped.
The purpose of that circular was simply to reinforce the measures that the government has put in place for civil servants and public officers to observe. Government must function. Government officers must function. And if you remember, we have said that essential services must continue.
And despite there being a surge in COVID-19 numbers, Mombasa County seems to have struck a drop in the transmission curve, something that Aman attributes to the residents' adherence to COVID-19 guidelines.
Clearly, the measures in place there are working, and this needs to be encouraged.
Aman, however, warns that counties bordering the Nairobi metropolitan area, such as Kiambu, Machakos and Kajiado, are in a danger zone due to a rise in COVID-19 cases in those counties.
We are appealing to residents of these counties to strictly adhere to the containment measures for the spread of the virus to be under check.
The number of COVID-19 cases in the country rose to 14,805 cases after 637 more people tested positive for the virus.
Nairobi recorded 342, Machakos 85, Kajiado 57, Kiambu 51, Nakuru 22, Mombasa 17, Nyeri 13, Busia 10, Muranga 9, Uasin Gishu 6, Bomet 5, Kericho 3, Kisii 3, Marsabit 2, and Narok, Vihiga, Meru, Embu, Garissa, Homa Bay, Kakamega, Kilifi, Kirinyaga, Kisumu, Kitui, and Laikipia have 1 case each.
A total of 499 people have recovered in the last 24 hours as 10 more people succumbed to the virus. For TV47, I'm Zainab Mohammed.
Now, Kenyans have listed unemployment, corruption, and high cost of living as the most pressing issues that should be addressed by leaders as the COVID-19 disease ravages the country. In a survey report released by research company Intel Research Solutions, 62% of respondents also revealed they yearn for a new presidential candidacy as the country approaches the 2022 general elections. David Mudoka reports.
Unemployment, corruption, and high cost of living have been listed as the most pertinent issues that Kenyans want addressed by their leaders. This follows a study by research company Intel Research Solutions, as most Kenyans continue to feel the sting of the novel coronavirus. The study further focused on political party preference, presidential candidate preference, best working governor, and support for the Building Bridges Initiative BBI. Jubilee Party was listed as Kenya's most popular party, amassing a 42% share among the 4,224 respondents contacted. The Orange Democratic Party ODM follows with 25%, while 13% of the respondents said they do not align to either party. According to the study, Deputy President William Ruto is the most preferred candidate ahead of the 2022 general elections. ODM leader Raila Odinga and Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua follow with 17% and 8% respectively, while 16% of Kenyans do not know whom to vote for. This, as a majority, 62%, want to see change and new faces for the 2022 presidential contest.
And actually, this one is noted in Nairobi. Nairobi stands at 70. And we have Western and Eastern. So it means these regions, they're hungry for change.
The study further ranked Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua as the best performing governor, closely followed by Governors Hassan Ali Joho, Wycliffe Oparanya, Kivutha Kibwana, and Mwangi wa Iria from Mombasa, Kakamega, Makueni, and Murang'a counties respectively. 48% of Kenyans revealed they would re-elect their current senators, 54% would re-elect their current MPs, while a majority, 51% of Kenyans, would re-elect their current women representatives. Nearly half of Kenyans would support the BBI initiative.
You have regions like Northeastern, which stands at 83%. They're in support of BBI. But Coast seems they're against the BBI.
The study was conducted in all 47 counties. David Muthoka, TV47, Nairobi.
Still on COVID-19, the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association, PERAC, has asked the government to charge offenders flouting COVID-19 safety guidelines individually in a court of law, since it will be unfair to administer collective punishment to all outlets. PERAC chairperson Alice Opey pleads with the Ministry of Health to withdraw a set of punitive regulations, such as banning the sale of alcoholic drinks.
The Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association, PERAC, has asked the Ministry of Health to take away penal guidelines that bar the sale of alcohol in different restaurants in the country. The association insists that tourism sector included eateries and restaurants, but not bars, discos and entertainment joints. PERAC chairperson Alice Opey said that violators of the COVID-19 safety protocols should be individually charged in court, and collective punishment of the entire sector should not be applied.
There should not be a collective punishment to the entire sector. Offenders should be individually charged in court. The isolated businesses highlighted in the media are not members of PERAC. That is a Pubs, Entertainment, Restaurants Association of Kenya. And as such, we disassociate our members and the association from heinous and the act of flouting the laws as laid down by the government.
At the same time, Frank Mbogo stated that the new measures will force the majority of workers in the industry back home and will further worsen the economic troubles they're already incurring. And in case the proposals are approved, they will go against the spirit of the Alcoholic Drinks Control Act.
If the proposal is approved, thousands will be rendered jobless and businesses likely to collapse. Section 3 and 5 means the only place where alcohol can be consumed is in people's homes. This is against the spirit of Alcoholic Drinks Control Act, which bans sale and consumption of alcohol in the presence of children.
The association has also criticized what they term as a unilateral order by Kiambu Governor James Nyoro banning the sale of alcohol in the county.
We urge the governor to respect the rule of law, and we have in mind the welfare of businesses in the county to avoid making unilateral decisions.
Some restaurants have resulted in selling alcohol even past curfew hours. Some high-ranking individuals have been among people caught engaging in drinking sprees in restaurants. The Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurants Association, PERAC, now pleads with the government to deal individually with offenders who breach COVID-19 guidelines put in place, saying it is unfair to administer collective punishment to all outlets for the crime of a few. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, the Makadara court has been temporarily closed for 14 days following identification of 2 coronavirus cases. Now, the break will allow disinfection of the court premises and seeking of medical attention of the staff members who may have been affected. Here is more from the corridors of justice.
All matters at Makadara court will remain suspended for the next 14 days. This is after 2 cases of the highly contagious virus were found at the court. In a statement to newsrooms, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary urges its staff and court users to continue adhering to the Ministry of Health protocols on the COVID-19 pandemic. In other news, the Children's Court today dismissed an application by a woman who was seeking child support from Chief Justice David Maraga. While delivering the ruling, Magistrate G.M. Gitonga ruled that the application by Mary Kwamboka Onyancha was not properly filed and that the applicant did not appear in court or send any lawyer to represent her. Kwamboka wanted child support for a 6-year-old child she claimed was sired by the Chief Justice following an alleged affair in 2013, a claim C.J. Maraga denied through his lawyer.
With Maraga, we had an affair.
When?
We've been friends from 2013, and now I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Do you have the documents with you?
I have everything.
Have you filed?
I've been filing cases every now and then.
And another legislator found himself on the wrong side of the law after flouting COVID-19 guidelines. Kasipul MP Charles Ongondo Were was fined 15,000 Kenya shillings after pleading guilty to flouting COVID-19 pandemic regulations. Appearing before senior resident magistrate Selesa Okore in Oyugis, the lawmaker was charged with flouting a ban on mass gatherings after he was found distributing sanitizers to the locals. Were became the second lawmaker this week to find himself in trouble with the law enforcement agencies for breaching COVID-19 regulations. Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja was also fined 15,000 shillings on Tuesday. Eli Logova, TV47, Nairobi.
And in politics, efforts to resolve Kirinyaga County standoff entered its second day, with county MCAs appearing before the Senate Devolution Committee to find a solution on the 2020-2021 county budget. Now, the Devolution Committee will now have a joint meeting with Governor Waiguru and the MCAs to find a solution tomorrow. Joash Ansari reports.
Kirinyaga County rankles will be resolved if at all the county MCAs and Governor Anne Waiguru will tone down their differences for the benefit of the people of Kirinyaga. The Senate Committee on Devolution and the MCAs conducted a meeting on Zoom to discuss the impasse of the county budget. The finance chairperson in the assembly, David Mathenke, said the executive failed to present relevant documents for discussions in the county assembly in the budget-making process.
What are these draft bills, if not the appropriations bill? Did the CC member for finance submit this appropriation bill during the time when he was submitting the budget estimate? The answer is no. That's the reason why we called him. We do it together with him, because there is no room in the PFM that allows, after the budget estimate is tabled to the assembly, is taken back to the executive.
The control of budget, Dr. Margaret Nyakango, said the only way to end the budget stalemate is to have a consultation and agree to pass the proposed budget in question.
Be consultation. But there has to be a limit to how much weighting the county assembly can take. But it should be common knowledge between the two parties. That is what I insist. So if up to a certain point they don't receive anything, then they should go ahead with what they have. Now, what has not been proven here is whether that threshold was passed, and that is why they went ahead.
Kirinyaga County Majority Leader James Murango wants Governor Anne Waiguru to withdraw the cases she filed in court if she is willing to resolve the stalemate in the county.
We cannot continue with mediation whereby the subject matter is still in the court of law. Mr. Chair, we demanded that the governor withdraws or causes the withdrawal of the 2 constitutional petitions filed at the High Court of Kenya Kenya in Kerugoya and a High Court of Kenya at Nairobi. This one is regarding the same budgets we are talking about, Mr. Chair.
The chair of the Senate Devolution Committee, Moses Kajwang, has asked the county leaders to bury their differences and seek a lasting solution in the interest of the people of Kirinyaga County.
This is about lives. This is about health. This is about schools. And this is about roads and markets for the people of Kirinyaga. So I am glad that we are all agreeing that we must climb down from our positions so that we are able to get a solution.
In a bid to resolve the county standoff, the Senate Committee on Devolution will meet Kirinyaga County Assembly representative and Governor Waiguru on Thursday. Joash Onsare, TV47, Nairobi.
Many thanks for staying with us on TV47 News tonight. We'll be taking a short break. Remember, I'll also be speaking to Professor Kenneth Kambona, who's an economic expert. We'll be looking at the economic impact that COVID-19 pandemic has had on Kenya and more so in the Horn of Africa region. Don't go away. Welcome back. Now, Kakamega County Governor Wycliffe Oparanya has for the first time come forward to defend his move to set aside parcels of land for mass graves, saying it is in line with the upgrading of Kakamega Town to the status of a city come 2022. Molini Kerry with the details.
Addressing the press in Kakamega during the Council of Governors weekly update on county's preparedness in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Wycliffe Oparanya expressed his anger on how prominence has been given to his move to set aside land for mass graves for people who succumbed to COVID-19 in Kakamega. Oparanya reiterated that death is inevitable and there is need to be prepared.
Someone even wrote, I've spent 2 billion to buy land. That is nonsense. 2 billion, if my development budget is 4 billion, so how will you spend 2 billion? And where is the land here in Kakamega, which is worth 5 acres, worth 2 billion shillings? That is the nonsense that we don't want to see. So we should tell people what is correct. Even the governor of Kisumu is here. He has also set aside every county. We must prepare for death. Death will come. I will die. I will not be here forever. I will die one day.
Oparanya, however, clarified that no monies were allocated in this financial year's budget for purchase of land for graves.
preparing this town to be a city in the near future. And one of the necessities for a town to be a city to have a proper cemetery at a particular place. So if I say I'm looking for a cemetery near the forest there so that we move out of town, what is the problem? Some people take it as an issue. And we have even not bought it, we have not even spent money on it. And it's also part of the preparedness requirement of the COVID-19.
Last week, the Kakamega County Assembly refuted claims that they were involved in passing the budget for purchase of land for graves, accusing the governor of misappropriation of funds as health sector continues to suffer.
Sisi kama bunge la Kakamega hatujaweza kutenga pesa ya kununua makaburi, viwanja za makaburi. Na hata hivyo, kama ni mswada utakuja bungeni, lazima tutahusisha wakazi wa Kakamega wakubali kwamba wapendwa wao watakapoaga waweze kuzikwa kwa makaburi ya jumla.
Mulindi Kerry, TV47 in the county of Kakamega.
A 14-year-old girl from Karurumo village in Runyanjas is 4 months pregnant for a casual laborer who defiled her. Now, this is the second time the girl has been defiled, and the suspected perpetrator walks scot-free. Mwege William with the details.
A Class 5 pupil in Karurumo, Embu County, is 4 months pregnant after allegedly being defiled by a casual laborer from the same area. The girl alleges she has been defiled twice in the last 2 years, and the latest incident was reported last month. According to Joy Kendi, the victim's sister-in-law, early this year, a neighbor to the family came home drunk at around midday and lured the girl to his house under the guise of sending her to the shop. However, when the innocent girl approached the door, the suspect, only known as Mugambi, pulled the girl into the house and proceeded to defile her.
Alikuwa ameenda kwa maji, kusota maji. Yenye alienda kusota maji, kijana akatoka huko akamsika. Yenye alimsika, akamfanyia kenye alimfanyia, mtoto akakaa huko, hata kukuja alikaa huko. Kijana alikuja kama amekunywa pombe. Akamuita, akafukuza wengine. Alafu akaita huyu, akamwambia kuja nikutume. Yenye alienda kumutuma akamfuruta. Yenye alimfuruta ndio sasa walifanya kenye walifanya.
The pregnancy was discovered last month when the girl started getting sickly. The girl confided to her kin what had happened, and when the suspect was confronted, he promised to take care of the baby. Kendi and other members of her family, in the company of the suspect, decided to report the matter at Karurumo police post, but Mugambi escaped while they were on the way. Kendi said her mother-in-law, Beatrice Wavuria, is unwilling to pursue the matter since no action was taken when the same girl was defiled in the year 2018. The girl's mother is also treating the misfortune as a blessing in disguise. It was rumored that the girl will never conceive after the first defilement incident.
Mwambi alikubali, akasema yeye nilimuita. Penye alisema alimuita, nilimuuliza Mwambi, kwanza ulikuwa unamuita akiwa bibi yako, ama ulikuwa unamuita akiwa msichana mkubwa, ama ulikuwa unamuita akiwa nani? Na venye nilikuja nikaambia mamu hiyo kesi yote, mamu hataki kufuatilia. Hakuna kitu anataka kusikia. Anasema Mungu atasaidia. Mungu atasaidia.
Hiyo mimba alikuwa anapakisha ati ya moja. Anaona ati ni faida kwake kuwa mchijana wake alikuwa akidhania hata pata mtoto, na sasa akona ya moja, akona mimba. Hiyo ati anaona ndio faida yake.
Catherine Wanja, a head teacher from the area, is aiding the pursuit of justice for the girl. Wanja regrets that this case is a reflection of the predicament that thousands of school-going girls are facing and may continue to face until schools reopen in January.
Na labda ndio sababu kesi zinaendelea kuwa juu, kwa sababu wanajua Runyenjes wakinajisi watoto, kesi zinapotelea hivyo.
Jojo Molo, Embu East Deputy County Commissioner, says the administration is fast-tracking the investigation on the matter, as well as other similar cases. He promises the culprits will be brought to book. Mwige William for TV47.
Really, really unfortunate. Now, more than 90 households in Weyeta, Maridadi Village, Kwanza constituency, Trans Nzoia County have been displaced by floods. Now, the incident follows a heavy downpour at night that saw River Sabwani burst its banks and flooded the area. Now, those affected have been moved to safer grounds. Our reporter Boniface Baraza has the details.
These are the scenes that invite you to this village. The locals have nothing to celebrate about. Instead, they are worried whenever it rains, as narrated by Simon Wekesa, a resident in the village.
Vile sisi tumekaa hapa kuanzia 85. Kweli tumekaa kwa njia ile yani sio kuwa mzuri kwa sababu kila mwaka tunaingia kwa maji. Watu 90 na more than yani ni wengi kwa sababu ukiangalia kijiji kama ni hapa hivi kuna watu nao pia wameathirika kwa sababu ni watu wenye wako ndani ya maji na pia na.
Ni mateso kweli ambayo tunapitia. Tumepitia bara la maji kwa inatutesa zaidi. Tumekuwa katikati asifu hatuko Kenya. Serikali ingetukumbuka. President wetu Uhuru kiwa atatusikia atukumbuke. Hatuone kututoa mali hapa maana tumepitia katika shida.
The residents of this swampy area are worried of an outbreak of waterborne diseases since their pit latrines are now flooded. They want the national government in conjunction with the county government to provide them an alternative land as a lasting solution to the problem that has been facing them since 1985.
Maji inasumbua sisi. Tafadhali serikali kama mnapenda mtupeleke mahali pazuri tuishi kama sisi wanadamu ambao tunapiga kura. Kwa sababu sisi maskini tunapikia watu wanapata pesa. Na sisi maskini ndio sisi tunalala ndani ya maji. Kwa hivyo serikali ingilia mambo kama namna hiyo. Sikwata ya hapa sisi tupate mashamba.
Transport is also paralyzed in the area since their only footbridge is about to collapse, posing more dangers to the locals.
Ningeweza kuomba wanasiasa waweze kutengeneza lile daraja ambayo inaitwa Sabwani River. Tumepoteza watu wengi kupitia kwa huo mto. Kando na corona, maji imemeza watu wengi. Na naomba wananchi wa hapa, tafadhali tujiadhari na maji.
Mtu akiwa kama saa mama mjamzito ni shida. Maana kupata hali ya usaidizi katika serikali ni ngumu. Hakuna kitu ambayo itampitisha mpeleka katika hospitali ili apate.
Fernando Wanyonyi, the area lawmaker, wants the local administrators to provide temporary relief by relocating the victims to nearby schools.
15 families ambazo ziko ndani ya mahali meishi ni mbaya. Is not very good. It's actually very risky in terms of maji mvua kinyesha sana Mount Elgon anaweza akawa swept away. Nataka wahamie kwa primary school ambayo the nearest hapa.
Mheshimiwa Uhuru na waziri wako na baraza la mawaziri, hii forest yenye iko hapa Kitale town, situhamishe hiyo miti kuja hapa na hii watu waenda hapa.
The residents are also counting huge losses after losing a number of their livestock and farm produce. Boniface Barasa, TV47, Weyeta Maridadi area, Kwanza Sub-County, Trans Nzoia County.
And on matters agriculture, cane farmers from Western region are fearful that the sugarcane task force recommendation will be implemented soon before their concerns have been addressed. The farmers have also taken a swipe at politicians from the region, saying that they've been giving empty promises to the farmers. They're now urging the government to give the current managing directors in the public sugar companies time to run the factories before leasing them out. Wanji Sustain reports.
Despite of tabling the cane task force before President Uhuru Kenyatta, farmers are now expressing fear over what they term as empty promises by politicians. Ibrahim Juma is the chairman of Cane Farmers Association, Kenya National Federation of Sugarcane Farmers.
Nasema ya kwamba zile regulations iwe in place, na juzi tena tumetengeneza Sugar Act na tukaangalia na tukatosheka na kwamba hiyo Sugar Act iwe implemented, ipeleke bungeni, iwe gazetted ili wakulime wapumue. Mimi nataka kusema hata tufanye mikutano 10, hata tufanye mikutano 20, kama ile shida ya watu wakulima wa miwa haijatatuliwa, kama sheria and order haijaletwa kwa sugar industry, kama hii government millers hajaangaliwa vizuri na hiyo madeni ifutiliwe, na hiyo kazi na iamke na tuone ya kwamba wakulima wanaweza kupanda miwa namna gani, tutakuwa bado tunamaliza wakati.
Banning importation of sugar and the debt waiver on the public sugar factories has been a reprieve to the sugar sector, and the farmers are now calling upon government to allow local management some time to run their factories before leasing them out.
Only one factory ndio tunaona sukari yake Kenya mzima, hatujui vile inaingia na other factory. Uwezo na sukari yako kwa supermarket. Hapo tunataka uliza government ama sugar directorate, hii vitu inatoka wapi? Tunataka all sugar industry sukari yao iingie kwa supermarket na duka ya kawaida, not only one.
Langu ni kwamba because of the Apple MD, ile kazi nzuri ambayo anafanya, badala ya kuliza kwa wale watu wa nje, tupa muda kidogo ili matani imetoka tuone ndio
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya, on his tour to Western Kenya sugar companies, stated that the lasting solution to the sugar sector is leasing the companies after waiving the debt.
Naona hii option ya leasing ni nzuri, tumekea tukaiona ni nzuri, as long as we put those conditions to make sure that your property is safe, the workers are safe, the sugarcane farmers are safe.
Wanji Sostin, TV47, Bungoma.
Thank you for staying with us on TV47 News tonight. We'll be taking another short break, but when we come back, I'll be speaking to Professor Kenneth Kambona, who's currently in Djibouti, stuck in Djibouti actually, and he's an economic expert. We're going to be talking about the impact COVID-19 has had on Kenya's economy and the Horn of Africa region, and how the recovery process is going to be like. Don't go away. Thanks for staying with us on TV47 News tonight. Let's get to our discussion. And remember, you can also talk to us through Twitter, TV47KE, or on Facebook, TV47 Kenya, or on SMS 22047. I'll be sampling some of your feedback at the end of the bulletin. Now, joining me live from Djibouti is Professor Kenneth Kambona. As I mentioned earlier, he's an economic expert, and we're going to be discussing about the implications and the effects of COVID-19 in the Horn of Africa region, and more so in Kenya. Thank you so much, Prof, for speaking to us tonight. And earlier you were just telling me that you've been stuck in Djibouti for 5 months, and you were saying in Djibouti is Lockdown, total lockdown, not like here in Kenya. So bring us to speed on how Djibouti has been handling COVID-19. How have their measures been? Are they rational, logical compared to how Kenya has been handling the pandemic?
Right. Thanks, Anne, for having me. And it's nice to hear a voice from home after 4 months in what I would call confinement. I think it's more of confinement than sanitizing or getting. So Djibouti is a smaller country, and the type of government is a little different from ours. One would say not as democratic, and therefore, when issues of presidential decrees are put out there, they are I don't want to use the word ruthlessly, but they are really put into force by the authorities. So, when it was lockdown, it was lockdown. The military was in the streets and the police were in the streets, and, you had to stay at home, period. Nothing you have this option. So that's been going on. However, things have changed a little bit, and over the last 1 month, there's been some relaxation on that, and we are able to now move around a little bit, but still, very much confined. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Now, we've been talking a lot about the economy and the recovery process, but, are we yet at the peak of COVID-19, Kenya and the rest of Horn of Africa countries to start thinking about the economy? We've been exposed clearly, the sad state of our health system here in Kenya especially. So what should our priorities be? And how should we balance all this? Should we first prioritize safeguarding our economy? What should our priorities be?
Yeah, a good question. At least the earlier part of it was regarding the region. Actually, when I came here, I came for some work to do at the IGAD. IGAD is the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, and then they look at the region as a whole. And they've been doing an analysis on how the COVID-19 has affected the region's economy. Mm-hmm. And this is impacting differently for different countries because, for instance, Kenya has a lot of the economy is dependent to a great extent also on tourism, and therefore it was impacted much more than maybe Djibouti, which is not dependent on tourism. But yes, having said that, coming back home to Kenya, I think your question can be looked at from a perspective of our Big Four agenda. I mean, if you were to look at what are our priorities are in manufacturing, food security, affordable health, and of course, housing. And all these areas have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. How? If you take food security, just before the COVID-19 pandemic, there was the locust invasion, which is still posing a threat. And therefore, it affected a lot of food security issues. Now, that has now been aggravated by the COVID-19 situation. And much as you don't see it on a day-to-day basis, but I think over time, economically, there's going to be a little bit of hike in the prices of food. Coming to healthcare. Healthcare apparently has slightly benefited from this pandemic because, a lot of focus has been on healthcare, isolation beds and what have you. So there's a little bit of that, but I think the heavy toll on the healthcare might affect it a little much more than we expect. And then when we come to manufacturing, that has been seriously affected because the value chains have been affected, the raw materials movements because of the curfews and the rest, lockdowns have been seriously affected. And then finally, when it comes to housing, again, that's affected because we have fewer hours of working. So in total, if you look at even the Big Four, but going beyond the Big Four, the tourism sector is a major casualty on this. The transport sector is a major casualty on this because, you know, Nairobi is the focal point. And when you lock down Nairobi and Mombasa, that's where most of the transport, even if, you know, passenger transport, but a lot of trade happens between Mombasa because of the port and the rest of the country. And then Nairobi is the conduit point for both people and goods. So that was affected by the lockdown seriously. But that, I would want to say that is at a very high level. Now, what happens at the Mama Mboga level, maybe that's, you are coming to that question. But
right.
That is, yes, I believe so. But the Mama Mboga level is the most affected, and that's what affects probably me and you. We directly, that is, I mean, with the curfew, of course, you know, now they are Mama Mboga's peak business is normally after people leave work, and then right now with the curfew, that's really affected. And then the same thing happens with the Juakali people. You know, they work a lot together, and since the distancing and all these conditions are in place, they cannot work very closely together. You know, they cannot observe. If they were to work the way they do, they may not be able to observe the distancing and what have you, and also the sanitization and the rest. So that disruption affects the economy, and our economy, you know, is more of informal. A lot of it is informal, and therefore, even the cost of having the COVID-19 regulations implemented is a little higher for many people. I'm not sure whether Mama Mboga can afford a sanitizer, a mask, and what have you. So she may not be, or he may not be able to meet all the conditions that's set up by the government. And then if you don't do that, of course, you know what the repercussions. You are against the law, and then your business is affected by either being arrested or something like that.
Prof, you've mentioned some of the things that these African countries or Horn of Africa region countries are grappling with, issues like food security. You've mentioned about locust, flooding, climate change, all these things. And most of these countries depend on donors, loans, and right now they have been sunk into massive debt. Now, how do you, and in order to recover, they'll have to maybe borrow more, they'll need more loans. So, Prof, how do you envision the recovery process?
Great question. Yes, we depend a lot on foreign direct investment. And that has gone down because the countries which invest are probably more affected by this pandemic than anything else. US, UK, France, Europe in general, and of course China. So that's a major problem. Then we also have a lot of our activities supported by development partners. If it's in agriculture, then there is FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization. If it is in health, it is WHO, World Health Organization. If it is in, all the areas of trade is UNCTAD. So with this kind of situation, we find that these countries are very vulnerable. And right now, of course, they're surviving on their reserves and what the country can put together. Fortunately, some of these multilateral donors have also come to our aid, like IMF just gave Kenya some reprieve loan or money for the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises. And the same is happening with countries like Uganda and even Djibouti. Djibouti got some help from the World Bank. Right. So that's helping a bit, but it does not get us out of the woods yet, because the impact is now being felt because of the small businesses or the contribution by the small and medium enterprises, which is much more than all this aid and support and loans we get from the international donors and financial institutions. The closing down. There was a AU report the other day, and it says that there would be almost like 20 million jobs lost within this period alone. Kenya will, of course, take its share of that. So it is the impact, I must say, has not been felt as yet, but we can almost dreaden what to expect. And the government can do the following. That's what my recommendation is. That number one, cushioning the small businesses. And some of these measures have been taken, taxation issues, and so that the small and medium enterprises can recover from this and then start contributing in terms of tax and employment and the rest. Because right now, you know very well, a number of people are at home unemployed, and yeah, that's a serious issue.
Prof, you mentioned about corruption, and it's interesting you've mentioned about that because most of the time we talk about African countries, Kenya included. Corruption does not miss in the topic. So are we corrupt by default? I mean, you've mentioned about some of the donors or donations. Djibouti has received donations. Kenya has received donations from various sources. But it seems like it's always an opportunity for some people to benefit themselves, even in the middle of a crisis. I don't know what your sentiments are on that only a few people benefit, because where are the donations going to, Prof?
Let me put it this way, and you are spot on that. That is one of our biggest problems. If the money we get, I've worked for the donor community for many years. If the money we get was channeled to the causes that they're meant to do, and if every cent was utilized in the most efficient way, right. Take it from me, we will be able to solve these things even in 1 year or 6 months. But the issue of corruption, whether we are talking of Kenya, whether we are talking of the other member states in the IGAD region, Djibouti, that is where the problem is, that people take advantage of such situations to either enrich themselves, and the donors have no way of mitigating that once the money has been given. So I think it is the duty of the citizenry through the various institutions that are available to still hype their way of bringing the government to account or getting the government to account for all these donations that we get. I would, for instance, say whatever we received from the World Bank the other day, I know, and then IMF the other day, we probably have not gotten to see how has it been utilized, and a proper auditing, accounting system, delivered to the people of Kenya, because that money was given on behalf of the people of Kenya. So you're right about that, but it behoves us, whether you are in Djibouti, to hold the government accountable, and through the institutions and individuals who are, supposed to be doing that. Parliament, the judiciary, the office of the Auditor General, the office of the budget, control of the budgets, all those are liable. They must be able to work on behalf of the wananchi.
All right, Prof. Let's talk a bit about the alcohol industry, because it's been greatly affected, and it's estimated that the alcohol industry contributes over 100 billion Kenya shillings in taxes, and it's been one of the hardest hit sectors during the COVID period. As you understand, bars have been closed, but now what's happening is that eateries have been converted into bars, and some governors, for instance, the Kiambu Governor James Nyoro, giving a warning to operators that those flouting the COVID-19 rules, the places will be closed down. How viable has this been, given that it's one of the largest contributors to our economy? Now the eateries are being converted into bars. I don't know, what's your sentiment on this? How viable was this, the rule of closing down bars in the country, now that eateries have converted them into bars? People are still drinking, and now the eateries are still making a lot of money from this. How viable was this?
Yeah, thank you. Initially, and we did not know how this thing would evolve. And therefore, I would put it this way, that the initial idea or decision to close bars and eateries and restaurants was well-meaning. I mean, the government had done its little research and homework and experience from elsewhere and seen that the best way is people converge at those points, you know, eateries and bars and entertainment centers. So it was a wise one. But we have also now learned from all this that at the end of the day, it is being overhyped. That bars and what have you are supposed. We can now, I think that's my very candid opinion, that we have learned that we can still operate these facilities by observing very strict rules, just as we do with the supermarkets. We in Djibouti, while they closed everything, for instance, supermarkets were open, and they were open on certain terms, and they managed to do that throughout the lockdown. And so the same should be applicable to bars and restaurants by observing that. And my friend James Nyoro is a very good friend of mine, could have done this, but I think the advice needed to have been well informed by some style, or rather some investigation. You should have given it a little more thought, because I think these are very important business enterprises.
Right.
It's not about the drinking per se, but bars are social places, but there are also places where people discuss businesses, people meet. Otherwise, you know, during the day you're busy in your office, and so you cannot meet your friends and discuss things which can even, improve the economy and business of the country. So I would say that I wouldn't support that right now. No, definitely not.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for speaking to us tonight. I've been speaking to Professor Kenneth Kambona. He's an economic expert, and we're hoping that you'll be able to get back home soon. Thank you, Prof.
Did I lose you?
All right, thank you so much for that. Now, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has insisted that indeed NASA only exists on paper. Kalonzo's party on Monday resolved that the NASA coalition was dysfunctional, and Wiper will now concentrate on strengthening their working relationship with Jubilee. But the final decision will be made by the party's National Delegates Council. He spoke to my colleague Liz Mutuku in the last hour. Let's listen to that.
Na nadhani kwamba urithi wa kisiasa ambao Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta atakabidhi nchi hii ni vile alianzisha vita hivyo. This is what you would call kwa Kiingereza a low hanging fruit. Hii apigane naye kwa sababu inaonekana kwa upande wa affordable housing amba manufacturing, COVID imeharibu mambo mengi. Lakini ufisadi bado tunauona. Mahali ananusia kwamba hapa mfisadi huyu ashikiliwe. Kuna kijana anaitwa Kinoti, mwingine anaitwa Haji. Hao vijana wapatiwe support kubwa kabisa.
Wakati ambapo nyinyi mmetia saini, chama cha NASA ama muungano wenu wa NASA umebakia wapi wakati ambapo nyinyi mmeamua, kila chama kimeamua kufanya kazi na chama kingine na haswa chama tawala cha Jubilee? Bado unaweza kusema bado NASA ipo?
NASA ipo, lakini inaonekana tu iko pale kwa vile tuliweka mkataba saini na tukapeleka kwa msajili wa vyama. Bado hiyo mkataba huo huko. Na ndio jana baraza kuu ni delegate. Wao watakuja kuamua, kisha baadaye kama Wiper inaweza kujiunga kikamilifu na Jubilee na kutia sasa mkataba wa coalition. Na huwezi kuwa chama akiwezi kuwa mwanachama wa coalitions mbili. Ndio tukafanya uamuzi kwamba tufanye cooperation. Na hii ni technical language kwa sababu cooperation na coalition tofauti. Bado sisi tuko pamoja na wenzetu wana NASA kwa huo mkataba, lakini shida nilionayo na zote tuko nayo kwamba viongozi wenyewe hatujawahi kukutana tangu uchaguzi wa 2017. Huwezi basi kusema kwamba NASA mpo na mkutani, kila mtu ana
And a section of men from Uasin Gishu County and residents have called for balance in the empowerment of youths, saying continued empowerment of the girl child will eventually lead to marginalization of the boy child, leading to rifts between the two genders. Calvin Chitoa attended a community empowerment training for men in Kamuyu within Uasin Gishu and brings you the details.
At Kamuyu PCAA Church in Band Forest, a group of men of different ages from different communities converge for a 4 days sensitization training on how they can mitigate gender-based violence at the community level.
Training community members on issues pertaining to gender-based violence, and with a very special interest or a bias on working with men and boys towards the mitigation of gender-based violence incidences.
During the training that was organized by the Community Education and Empowerment Center, male negative attitude towards women leadership in various spheres was raised as a major factor hindering their potential.
It is a matter of supporting each other for us to rise up together as both the males and the females within the community.
Deeply rooted cultural beliefs and stereotypes against women are other factors barring women from active participation in elective leadership positions.
Kwangu mimi kitu yenye itakuwa ngumu ni ile hali kuachiwa mtoto nilee nyumbani.
But as several mitigation measures to empower women and the girl child are embraced, some men are raising concern that the trend could eventually falter the relations between the two genders.
Boy child, to some extent, according to my view, is becoming somehow extinct and endangered species, but we need to pull up the balance.
Sijui wanaogopa sababu inaonekana ni mwenye nguvu mpishe, mwenye matusi mpishe, na wanaume kwa matusi kwenye siasa wanaelewa sana. Kwa hivyo sijui wa mama ni nini inawafuta sana, sababu siasa za hapa huwa ni za namna hiyo, kuharibiana majina.
Several women leaders in the grassroots in Band Forest have also been trained in curbing gender-based violence and strategies to employ in order to increase their participation in elective leadership positions.
The law dictates that at least a third should be of either gender. So to fulfill this obligation, sometimes when women are called upon to take up certain positions, they are not able to. They do not have the capacity. They have not been sensitized to be leaders. And also, of course, there is resistance from the men.
Calvin Chitoa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
And that's all the time we had tonight. Many thanks for joining us. My name is Mombi Chege, sitting in for Abubakar Abdullahi. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Ann Wairimo. I'll be leaving you with the weather forecast. Have a blessed night.
We value your feedback, welcome any comments, queries or complaints regarding our programming content.